Oh yeah. You know what time it is. This, my friends, this is a massive amount of cheese. I think by anybody's estimation, this is more cheese than mortal man is meant to consume. This is all from the fantastic Cafferty Cheese Company. I ordered this in special. This is a kilo block of kikarangi, of which I've already eaten half of the damn thing. I've got some awa blue, I've got some baby kikarangi, I've got the kahurangi creamy blue as well, and we're going to taste them all. Good morning. So it is the weekend, and I want to give a special shout out to all the people out there who have ups and downs. That's why I call this stream the roller coaster. I'm a sufferer of depression. It's one of the side effects of having a creative mind, is, in my opinion. And this week is one of my down weeks, but I persevere. And doing these live streams and talking with people quite often helps quite a bit, and also just like being very productive. But yeah, if anybody picks up that I'm kind of low today, that's why. Valtipsa! Lucas, how's it going? Loki? Is this all for tonight? Well, yeah. So it's time for a taste test of the. We're going to go for the kikarangi first and the baby kikarangi, because I know I like these. And then we're going to try the kahurangi, which is the big one down the bottom. And then we're going to try the awa. The awa is reputedly the strongest out of all of these. So let's give it a go. And also, we're going to talk about the roller coaster of Dungeons and Dragons cosmology, which is the ups and downs of the Outer Planes. Because I've had so many questions from people about what happens to good people when they die, or what happens if somebody does evil things against their will? Do they still go to the nine hells? When they die. Well, it's definitely the king of cheeses, man. It's creamy, rich, got fantastic layers of flavour. The blue is like mature, permeates the cheese. Coats the tongue with a really nice, you've just had a cheese milkshake aftertaste. It's really good. Oh, how's my stream? I look like I froze there for a second. Let me pop out the chat here. Already getting some questions here. Bumbling Bureaucrat says, do you think that a sorcerer reskinned as a psychic would be pretty cool? Sort of like a dragon bloodline sorcerer, only instead it's a psychic humans. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. As you know, I think that we don't need anything particularly special added to D&D to make the sorcerer or any other sort of spellcasting class a more psychic sort of thing, because psychic and spells are very similar in 5th edition. Hey Stanchgate, yeah, I'm happy to have you here for the whole stream as well. Thank you very much for the donation, by the way. The Green Dragon thanks you. Alright, next up we have the baby kikarangi, which is the same but smaller. And I think it hasn't been matured as long as the full kikarangi, but it looks quite like it's an intimidating looking chunk of cheese. I like to think of this as Cataplebus death cheese, but it's, yeah, very nice. Yeah, you can definitely tell the difference. The baby kikarangi is more like a It's got a kind of a camembert flavour to it. Like the cheese itself is more pungent, but the blue mold in it is not as pungent, or blue bacteria. Some fun facts about blue cheese. It is actually good for you. As with all cheese, particularly blue cheese, you should eat it in moderation because it has a high amount of sodium and the basically cholesterol in it, proteins. Like this will be the amount of cheese I'm eating today, probably about a quarter of the protein needs that I have for the entire day. But the mold, the blue, the penicillin rochefort bacteria has no negative sort of toxins that bacteria normally produce. It's been very carefully selected out for it. Fancy cheese, yeah, very fancy. And so it's completely healthy and safe to eat. All right, now we're trying the kaharangi, which is very crumbly cheese. It was quite moist in the packet. Moist. Doesn't have a lot of blue going through it. Much, much sharper cheese. Wow. Yeah, that's really quite intense flavour. That's like a kick of sharp blue. And the cheese itself is quite different again. Softer cheese for sure. That would go really well in like a sauce or something like that. If you wanted to make a sauce or something, that kaharangi would be perfect. Because that would go straight through. All right. Nice. Not as good as the kikarangi as a basic eating cheese though. All right, let's try the awa. I'll get to your questions in just a second. Serious business. Okay, now the awa is it's like they call it like a river cheese, and it's reputedly quite strong. Wow. Shit, that's the ghost pepper of blue cheeses. Holy shit, that's strong. Hard to describe. That is almost intensely strong. No, it's intensely strong. Man, that is borderline. Like, it's very, very heavy duty cheese, that one. Whoa, that is not for the faint of heart. That's like if you gave that to somebody who was a bit on the fence about blue cheese, that would knock them right over into the blue cheese is poison category. Even me as a lover of blue cheese, that was almost too much. So I'm going to say that the winner is definitely the kikarangi, the king of cheeses from Kapiti. fantastic. Well done. You can actually order Capity cheese. My hands, like, look at that. It's from handling this cheese. You can actually order this stuff online and get it sent to you. And they sent it really well in a like refrigerated, packaged thingamajiggy container. And all up, that was about $130 worth of cheese. So that's going to last me for quite some time. All right, that concludes the cheese section of the show. God, that hour was really strong. I'm also happy to say that I've received my package of the Acquisitions Incorporated merchandise. So this is the D&D product created in partnership with Penny Arcade, and it's pretty good. I've got to say this though, if you're thinking about getting the Dungeon Master screen, as much as I love Penny Arcade and their products, the Dungeon Master screen is for comedic effect only. Like if you're looking for a practical use Dungeon Master screen for general purposes of use, it's not really designed that way. It's designed to be a humorous thing that is in front of you that you can stick things to. It's got a few random roll tables and things, but if you're looking for a very practical Dungeon Master screen with a lot of useful charts and tables and stuff on it, that's not what you want to get. I've got a large collection of Dungeon Master screens. They're good. This book, on the other hand, is really quite good. It's got fantastic artwork and stuff through it. If you're a fan of the Penny Arcade podcasts and live shows and all of their D&D goodness, which has been going on for 10 years now, they really were pioneers doing podcasts and live shows and stuff before it really became hugely popular like it is now. This is an adventure module. So it's got a big adventure thingy in here, which stretches from level 1 to what is it? I've really just picked this up and started reading it. 1 to 6, level 1 to 6. So if you want to start off a campaign with a more sort of tongue-in-cheek feel, but it's actually still fully D&D, then that's another option for getting people into the game. So yeah, good product. All right, questions? Let me scroll back up here. What do most D&D people eat? You mean what do people in the D&D world eat? A lot of the same things that we do. Obviously there's a lack of distribution for more regional products. So for instance, you can get apricots and walnuts and stuff from Thay and Citrus that are sent over via Sembian trade merchants. It's quite hard to come by. You can get more exotic sort of fruits and nuts and stuff from Kalimshan through trade along the Sword Coast. Spices obviously are very expensive, particularly along the Sword Coast where you can get pepper and things like that which grow, but if you're looking for cinnamon and things like that, then you've got to get them from spice traders, and quite often spices change hands and the price escalates along the way. Otherwise most people just eat fruit and vegetables that are regional and seasonal, and they also eat a lot of meat, yeah. Yeah, this live stream always starts with cheese, just to get everybody so that they can all sort of join in. Beware the dark side of the cheese. Yeah, definitely. That was a hell of a lot of cheese, I've got to say. Neutrals have a trial for their soul, prosecutor, and angel defense attorney. No, neutrals go to either the concordant plane of the Outlands, which is basically the hub of the multiverse, in the center of which, underneath the city of Sigil, is a spire of rock, like a mountain that just goes up and up and up and up, and possibly, and it is inhabited by this silvery skinned, metallic-y skinned race of beings called the Rilmani, which are native outsiders that are kind of like the middle ground between the Celestials and the Infernals. So they're the moderating neutral party that is on the fence of law and chaos and good and evil. And so they are pretty much the angels of neutrality. On the other flip side of that, the lawful neutral, that is the modrons, and you don't incarnate as a modron, so souls don't become part of Mechanus. Mechanus is already self-contained. So when one modron is destroyed, another one is created and promoted by Primus. So Primus is the conduit, and the gears of Mechanus, these great big cogwheel, planet-sized cogwheels and stuff, their turning moderates the operation of the rest of the cosmos, the rest of the multiverse. And they're also involved in some sort of grand calculation. So it's almost like if the multiverse was the matrix, that is the programming source code in behind it all. And there's native creatures which live in Mechanus, like Formians and other sort of orderly, lawful creatures. And souls can go there, I think, if they're very lawful neutral. So and there's individual planes where gods reside. So if there are creatures which maybe they sort of paid homage to an entire pantheon of gods, not one in particular all the time, but their alignment was more in keeping with that god of that pantheon, then they will probably go there because it's just better suited to what they want to do with their eternity, sort of thing. They're already they meet the prerequisites for the job, so to speak. Celestials, good creatures that go to Mount Celestia, don't just sit around doing nothing. They work hard, and they are jostling for a chance to go on adventures and better themselves and fight for goodness and law in the multiverse. So paladins and things like that who go to the celestial realm may not want to come back to the mortal life when somebody tries to resurrect them. So after they've crossed over and they're truly dead, within 100 or 200 years they can still be resurrected, but they may not want to be resurrected because they're engaged in a grander scheme of adventures, really. So they'll be involved in some sort of cosmic quest involving other lawful good beings who are going to do some real work in the multiverse, rescuing souls from the nine hells and that sort of thing. So they go out and they prove themselves as archons, typically. So they'll incarnate as a lantern archon. They'll start off as a petitioner for a little while, and that's what their lantern archon is. It's the form that their soul takes when it crosses over into the celestial realm. And then they work their way up through the archon ranks until they get basically picked to be a journeyman angel, and then the angels progress up the ladder until they become solars, essentially. All right. Yeah, Mechanus is not much for imagination, no. That's why it's pretty difficult to be a soul that incarnates into Mechanus, because it's kind of an alien mindset. Basically, you would have to be an autistic person who counts things for fun to fit into Mechanus, and you would really lose your individuality. Like, a lot of modrons don't actually think of themselves as individuals. They refer to themselves. They're very much like the Borg from Star Trek. That's pretty much how they think. For them, the operation of the multiverse needs to be perfection, and they don't really understand chaos. They don't like it. They fight against it. The far realm. So the far realm is referred to as, it's not far as a distance, it's far as in weirdness. So departure from reality. The further away it is from reality, the closer it is to the far realms. So that's where you cross over to an alternate dimension where everyone is duckfish who are swimming around in liquid space, and they congregate around the negative energy of black holes, for instance. It's really, really weird, divergent reality. And I'll be talking more about that in future videos as well. That's okay, Bumbling Berry Cat. It's perfectly fine to ask all the questions. I'll miss half them anyway. Yeah, yet to read. I've got the PDF of Strongholds and Followers because I did back the physical product. I'm waiting for it to arrive before I start reading it because I prefer to read books. Generally speaking, I read a lot of PDFs professionally, so I like to read actual physical hard copies in my spare time. That being said, I've also just ordered a bunch of old second edition AD&D books through Amazon, which are going to be arriving in dribs and drabs. So I'm looking forward to that. Your blink dog took your car keys. I like it. Ordered genies would be hell to deal with. Yeah, I imagine so. Is there a city that originates around a wizard tower instead of a generic fortification? The host tower of Luskan is located in Luskan, but Luskan was built upon the ruins of a more ancient civilization. Luskan has actually got quite a history to it, even more so than Waterdeep. Waterdeep was founded pretty much as a bastion of defence from a joint Netherese elven force that was fending off a massive orc invasion. The history of the Sword Coast is kind of a specialty of mine. I should publish the timeline that I made for that. That would be interesting for people, I'm sure. If you go to neutral evil gods realm, do you become a demon or a devil or a Yugoloth? So neutral evil would be Yugoloths, and yeah, you definitely would be one of them technically. Are archons all good beings become, or just the lawful ones? No, they're all basically what most good beings become. Depends on the upper plane that you're going to. So Celestia, definitely an archon. However, if you go to Olympus or Arborea or some of those, or Elysium, those sort of planes, you may actually incarnate as a physical, look very much like a person or a hero of heroic proportions. Because in some of those planes you actually battle for fun. These are the sort of Valhalla places, you know. Yeah, Descent into Avernus is going to be fun. I agree, Ruben. Also, happy birthday for the other day. And any ideas on how to run a group in an infernal machine? It's like a submarine crew or a big van type deal as far as the communication between the operators. I don't know yet. I'll have to check it out. I hate produced DM screens. Yeah, much more useful. Connect 3 clipboards with small hinges and folds in on itself. I've actually got a wooden DM screen that my friend Ian made for me. Ian, the guy who appears on some of my other live streams. Modelling project, yeah. Yeah, so Eldritch Horrors come between the space between planes. So they come from like the phlogiston or from realms of the Far Realm, for instance, or realms of the Abyss, which have been sort of disrupted because there's places which are positive voids and things as well. The Abyss encompasses all the planes of existence that have been corrupted and taken over by demons. So they've kind of been snipped out of Mechanus' operations and corrupted and broken off. And they're connected by portals through the abyssal network, so to speak. So the Abyss is really the LinkedIn of the multiverse. It's there, it's connecting everything, but nobody really wants it. It's just there. So it's made use of. Hey, Revenant Angel and Child, hello. Pizza, nice. The Far Out realm, yeah, that's that's more accurate, not a dog. Hey, in Countermancer, AJ, I'm starting my own channel. Do you keep your personal life politics out of your channel? Yeah, absolutely. I try to. Whenever I bring personal politics into things, it goes badly. You don't get people riled up, especially role players. Also, because I live in New Zealand, my political concerns are of no interest whatsoever to Americans because I live in a different country. So they're perfectly welcome to live life as they see fit. My opinion is I don't have one. The Eldrazi. What would a soul that turned into a genie's in the blind eternities end up like? Probably crazy, because as we know, nothing can really exist in the blind eternities because they are an endless void. The Eldrazi make no sense whatsoever because they essentially exist in nothingness. Um, and therein lies the mystery of the Eldrazi. What the hell are they? They are primordials of some kind, for sure. But how old they are, what multiverse they were a part of, nobody knows. So the Eldrazi are this like super terror threat that comes out of nowhere. They are the alien, the alien. Like in a world of high fantasy, they are one step of weirdness beyond. So they're uncaring deity level threats, really, that just want to disrupt reality and return it to a void, essentially. Remember that in previous incarnations of the multiverse, like, so this is not the first multiverse, and it's probably not the last multiverse. It's just the current state of affairs of the multiverse. There were other beings and other civilizations that have been detached and sidelined and thrown into pockets, dimensions, and things as the battle of the gods and the primordials rages across time and space. Time and space itself shifts and changes. You could say that almost magic is like the eddies of these changes. One of the things that the supernal language and draconic magic and elven high magic and stuff does is it makes use of these threads of discord, these threads of chaos and instability that are threading their way through the multiverse like cracks in a window pane, and they are shifting reality between and using those cracks to their own advantage. They've figured out, mages have figured out what these cracks do, like where they can pull in extra dimensional energy that doesn't have any consequences in the reality that they're in, because it's like the trail of a rocket which is going to explode somewhere else, and they're just borrowing a little bit of that momentum of that blast which has been fired by a primordial at a god across time and space. It's mind-rending stuff. Wizards, arcanists quite often don't really fully understand what the power is that they're dealing with, but they'll make use of it. Does New Zealand even have politics? Of course we do. When giants die, where do they go? They go to their individual afterlives. They've got a pantheon of their own, and those gods, those primal giants, titan sort of giants, have celestial realms and are part of celestial realms. So they are part of various upper planes. So they definitely go places. Yeah, that's exactly right, Dragon Turtle. It can be a bit confusing because some creatures are native outsiders, so they were born and or created on the outer planes, and others are promoted from mortal souls that have transitioned onto those planes of existence and become naturalized immigrants, essentially. Can't keep his cheese problem private, though. I don't have a problem with cheese. America! Abyssal invites, yeah. Spam. Abyssal spam. What happens to people whose deity lives in the astral plane or the inner planes? Well, generally speaking, when they live in the astral plane, they've created a a pocket dimension, you could say. So one of the things that the gods can do is they use the worship of others, of mortal beings, to alter reality. Like the whole thing of people being able to, the quantum physics thing, right? Being able to observe a thing changes a thing or fixes a thing. It cements its probabilities. So the gods make use of that to essentially use the will of living beings who believe in them and believe that they can do certain things, which allows them to do those things. So gods are waging a constant PR campaign of hearts and minds to get people to believe that they can do ever greater things. So the ascendancy of gods is people believing that they are greater, and in their belief that they are greater and more people believing that, they actually become greater. So that's the whole thing. Gods want you to know that they exist because it benefits them. And of course, that is the big um, the big tipping point and really the clue of why Celestia is so dominant, and that they could actually just win the evil powers. A lot of people have asked me, what happens if a fiend or something grabs the soul of a good person and takes them down to the nine hells? Well, what happens then is the Celestials essentially release a bunch of those petitioner souls who are archons who are chomping at the bit to do good in the multiverse. They unleash them, they rampage down into the lower planes, and they blast the shit out of everything. Just absolute mayhem, which can be very disruptive to the demons or devils who have done such a stupid thing, and quite often gives them a setback which the other side in the Blood War takes advantage of to grab ground from the devastated forces of their opponents. So evil people are working, like evil beings are working against each other, so they're weakened because they're not unified. They have to scrabble for every little bit of power that they can get. They have to trick their way into grabbing to converting and warping people to break the rules of the gods, condemn themselves to an eternity and the fiendish planes, whereupon their only real option is to work their way up the ranks by being more evil than everybody else. Whereas the Celestials, on the other hand, work together automatically. They actively want to create a better multiverse, and they are fueled by both the positive elemental plane, which is closer to the upper planes than the lower planes, so there's a net positive radiance, and they're fueled by the will of everybody who believes in them, that believes that they can fix everything and they can change reality and they can heal and they can restore and do all that sort of stuff. So they just can. Every angel can just raise somebody from the dead as one of their default divine abilities. Hey Jimmy, thank you. How would you go about trying a bit of second edition D&D? I'd like to see some gameplay of the old system, but 5e is rightly so crowding out everything else. Yeah, so I've got obviously an interest in it because of nostalgia, essentially. I've played second edition and occasionally get people talking about stuff like the duelist class and things. I really loved the duelist class back when it first came out. And we played assassin classes from Unearthed Arcana and stuff. So I guess I would be interested in taking a look at the books and running people through, for people who have no experience of what second edition was like, what AD&D, the original game, and really how different 5th edition is from it. Because you get a lot of people who are, dare I say, very negative about anything other than second edition, because they love it so much they don't want their childhood corrupted or whatever reason they have to crap over everybody else's fun. And there's a lot of people who just like second edition it's there, it's in print, it's not going to go anywhere. This is unchanging. This will never be corrupted. You can play second edition as it was intended by just buying the books and playing it as it is. But back then, like now, everybody homebrewed their game. Nobody played it as written entirely. Everybody, as soon as you start playing a role-playing game, it becomes your own custom blend of whatever you wanted to use. Not to mention the fact that Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine and White Dwarf and all these magazines and stuff were adding homebrewed content into the game all the time, and everybody just picked and choose stuff. Honestly, our game would change from edition to edition of the Dragon Magazine, as we'd include stuff or not. So yeah, second edition was around for a long time, but 5th edition is the current game. It's the current meta, you could say, and it works really well. Its simplicity for me allows me, as an experienced dungeon master, to basically chop and change and add things in really easily, because the base mechanics of the game are very stable and balanced. Not artificially forced video game balance like 4th edition was, although that was a step in the right direction in some ways. It was a departure from traditional D&D in too many others, and it really detracted from a lot of people's interest in the game. I played through 4th edition and I liked it because it was well supported with electronic media and all that sort of stuff. 5th edition, really, it's not very well. It's only now it's starting to be really well supported. I've just started making some characters and stuff on D&D Beyond. and I like the direction that they're going. But it's been what 6-7 years that it's taken. They didn't have a lot of electronic support for the game to begin with. It got quite badly disrupted with the company that really dropped the ball, because one guy's ego just completely screwed over their company and cut them out of the deal altogether. And then Twitch curse essentially stepped in, and now Twitch dominates the media most people are absorbing D&D through, and I think artificially, and I've talked about that before. As a YouTuber, it's quite noticeable, really, that there's a very much a balance shift towards Twitch being the medium of Dungeons and Dragons, which I don't think will continue forever, for sure. Media changes all the time. I like all the cheese talk. Is there any chance of some Piercer and Roper anytime soon? Yep, not a dog. I am working on it. I've got animation software and stuff like that, and also I'm a sculptor, and I've been looking at stop motion sculpting as well for little skit bits. We will see. It's a creative thing, and you can't really push it. So I'll see what happens. I am enthusiastic about Menzo brands and Knights. We may even see, dare I say, like a PDF product, perhaps? Something that I release free for everybody. Hey, thanks Blue Mountains Gaming. Could a character with a strength of 18 crush someone else's hand while giving them a handshake? Yes. Somebody with a strength of 18 is beyond Olympic level athlete. That's really, really, really strong. So if you look at somebody like the Mountain, for instance, our world's strongest man at the moment, he has a strength of 18/19. He's probably not even 20 yet. So Dungeons and Dragons are superheroes in a high fantasy environment. So somebody with a strength of 18 to 20 is like Wolfgar, for instance, from the novels, is a massive 7 foot tall barbarian with arms that actually swell, with almost like an inhuman transformation with his rage and things like that. So the Uthgard barbarians, for instance, or the Reged barbarians, as in the case of Wolfgar, are supernaturally strong. They live in the tundra of the far north of a magical world. They're eating and drinking magic-infused stuff. Thaco wasn't that difficult. Don't ask me to explain it though. I haven't played 2nd edition in quite some time. Is it that deities' abilities are limited by two things? The power being determined by the amount of worship, and their abilities or personality in general based on others' belief in them? Yeah, so one thing I've been trying to impart to people is the difference between the avatars and deities, right? So a deity, you don't, let's say I'm on my way to becoming a deity. I've got a network of people who know who I am in the prime material plane, and they attribute to me these various things, which is what I've been putting out on YouTube and stuff, for instance. So they look at me as a sage. So I'm on my way to becoming a sage deity. So for instance, maybe I shouldn't have used myself as an example. It was terrible. Rails against my ego. Okay, so I at this point am just a mortal being. But meanwhile, on alternate planes of existence, there are other versions of me in other planes of existence. One of them's got blonde hair, one of them wears glasses, one of them, has red hair, one of them is a female, one of them is a mind flayer. In a mind flayer dominated world, there's a mind flayer AJ version of me somewhere, and let's say the majority of them are actually on the track to becoming deities as well. And at some certain point, they elevate to the astral plane, and through the astral plane, which is a dimension. I hope somebody's okay. That sounded like an ambulance going by. So through the astral plane, which is a linking dimension of mind and dream and belief, the avatars of each person from those different planes of existence combines, and the belief that all those different people from different planes of existence flows through the color pools into the astral plane and creates a general picture of that deity that shares all the common traits that all of those avatars have, and that becomes a god that incarnates in the astral plane and gravitates or creates a plane of existence. They usually become a part of a plane of existence that best fits their alignment, so they sort of gravitate towards that bit on the wheel. And that is how it works. So you can kill an avatar of a god on a plane of existence, but it won't kill the deity itself. And you can kill that deity there, but one of the avatars will resurrect it, and it just feeds back into it. So it's really hard for mortal creatures that aren't existing trans-dimensionally to do anything about a god's power. That's why you need to be, it takes a god to kill a god, sort of thing. That was the fuzz, yeah. Yeah, most people who dislike Thaco have never actually played second edition and realise that it's just armor class in reverse. That's all it is. It's just like, instead of adding to, you take away from. Take away from 0. Nani? Hakuto no ken? hide the cheese. Yeah. That awa cheese is probably an illegal substance. Agricultural god of cheese. Yeah, there's got to be a sage of cheese somewhere in the multiverse. Damn it, why not? It's the only niche left is cheese sage. That's it. All the other god spots have been filled. Songs of cheese. How much are gods influenced by their worshippers? Can you do a propaganda campaign to change the beliefs of enough worshippers to say make an evil god good? In theory, yes, you can. But of course, it would take such a monumental transplanar organization across a near infinite amount of different dimensions that it's impractical to do so. But in theory, yes, you can. That would be very interesting if you had some sort of like loophole where you were creating clones of yourself like across the multiverse, and the clones had the ability to like influence followers and things like that. That would be crazy. But yeah, you could do something like that. Put the cheese down. Come quietly or there will be trouble. He was let out early on Gouda behaviour. Holy book written on cheese paper. When cheese is outlawed, only outlaws will have cheese. And another one gone. And another one. Yeah, sorry if I do miss any questions. It is really good if you highlight my name so I pay attention to them. So if you've got questions directed at me, put that at AJ Pickett and I'll be able to see it better. It pops up with a little orange tag on it so I can see it. Power word cheese, exactly, Jimmy. So levels 1 to 5 are peak human potential, Olympic athletes, Navy SEALs, celebrities. 6 to 20 are beyond what would be possible for those types of creatures, and 21 to 30 beyond what should be physically possible to exist under real world physics. Are you talking about attributes? So 1 to 10 would be normal range of human attributes. So anything below 8, you start to notice that the person is not as good at a thing. And from 10 to 15 is high human potential. And then from 15 beyond, 15 to 16, 17 is like Olympic level athlete, somebody who concentrates on that sort of thing. So it's beyond what genetics gives you. It's also genetics and a predisposition to it, or a natural talent or a supernatural talent. And then 18 and up to 20 is massively peak human performance, and then beyond 20 is supernatural. Um, yeah, it's supernatural creatures, pretty much. Normally, humans don't have stats higher than 20. They don't need stats higher than 20 in D&D. It's quite disruptive if you actually do that. So be very careful about giving people things which push their stats above 20 for any reason. I'm not familiar enough with the Bleach franchise. I've watched some of the anime, and I think I watched the live action thing, but I'm not up to par on particular stuff on it, Nicholas. Sorry. Holy cheese! Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right, Juju Beer. So gods are the avatars are extensions of the overgod consciousness. So the avatars see and witness things on a local level, but the gods see things on a transplanar level. So they are extensions of that god into that reality. Bane is the god emperor. Yeah. So there was also some confusion about that Seska, the individual, the cleric of Bane, the Baneite cleric that I was talking about, and whether she was actually evil. Seska isn't evil. Bane is evil, but you don't have to be evil to worship an evil god. So the portfolios that Bane is in charge of. So Seska is essentially a street level hoodlum who latched onto the Church of Bane as a means to give herself security and protection and resources in the mean streets of Luskan. But she herself is not actually evil by nature. She is a war cleric of Bane, but she's not actually evil. She's certainly not somebody that you'd mess with in a fight, but she's more of a support role in that party. And she's quite tough, which allowed her to actually survive. So the avatars are just the mortals that became the deity. Is this, if that is the case, how can there be more than one per sphere, let alone a version of the prime? Avatars. Oh, so the gods can manifest things. So the gods can manifest avatars in planes of existence that don't have them. For instance, they can just make stuff. That's one of the things that worshippers allow them to do, is to rearrange reality. So in their own planes of existence, the gods have control over the reality of their plane of existence to quite a large degree. So they can just manifest things. And one of the things that worshippers allow them to do is go to the prime material universe and manifest things by altering reality around them. Oh, you're talking about character levels. Oh, that makes more sense, Dragon Turtle. Yeah, then I think you're basically right. The druids are feta up. Eat cheese, do crimes. Hey, Sebastian. What do I think about the power and abilities possessed by the Vaster Lords Hollow Bleach franchise? Did I already read that? Am I skipping? Or did you just repeat yourself? So I'm not familiar enough with the Bleach franchise. NetHack. Oh, man. Emiliano. Um, I played NetHack obsessively for a while. It was the only fantasy I had. Also, I have actually legit played NetHack until I got the Amulet of Yendor, and then I stopped. I beat it. It took me 360 games of NetHack, but I finally got the Amulet of Yendor. I was playing it every lunch break at my lab job. Talk about perseverance. If an entire species is considered neutral evil, does that mean that your entire race is doomed to damnation? Goblins might not think that raiding a hamlet for food is evil. Yeah, that's a good point. So goblins, generally speaking, their entire society is shifted towards endorsing evil, because if you're not evil in an evil society, you're going to be a victim of the evil society. So it kind of weeds out the good people. There are good goblins, though. There definitely are good goblins, but they are not the norm. So generally speaking, their race is evil by necessity, because everything is trying to kill them, so they kill other things first, and they steal and they connive and stuff, just as a way of life. And they probably wouldn't really like going to an upper plane anyway. It'd be very, very foreign to their point of view. People just giving things to other people, and people doing things for people for no benefit whatsoever as far as they can see. So goblins are very much about the here and now tangible reward for their actions. They're not they don't put off their reward until later. They want the reward now. They want the lollies now. They want the reward now. If they don't have it, they want it. If you've got it, they want it too. If they have to kill you to get it, they will. They're sociopaths. What's a good on-the-road encounter for a number of level 6 characters? Probably a large group of boulé. Like a herd of boulé. You could have them as like underground wolf pack of boulé. Just burrow up and attack them out of the blue, going after their horses. Or griffins. A cloud of griffins going after your horses is a good one. I got lost in your answer. What would a Navy SEAL in D&D have for strength? Just normal human fighter. Probably about a 15 or a 16. Navy SEAL's probably actually a bit more in the Constitution side of things. Going on pack marches and survival in the wilderness and stuff like that is a Constitution sort of thing. And wisdom, obviously, a lot of training to be a Navy SEAL. Yeah, the Pact Primeval, exactly. Just imagining that druids all fed up with the fuzz after going after the recreational cheese man. It just stinks. Don't they know it's all natural, it's gooder for you. Nice. Is there any other form of outer plane creature that one becomes besides archons, angels, devils, demons, and Yugoloths? I have still got to research all of those videos, so I'm not going to give you a definitive answer yet because I don't know everything. That's one of the reasons why I make videos, is to learn. So I'll be able to, we'll explore it together. I don't know if there's a form that you incarnate on in the Outlands, and whether they become real Māori. I'm not entirely sure. Can a Warforged be possessed by an intellect devourer? Good question. Like, Warforged do have souls, but they don't have brain meat. They don't have neurons. Is psychic possession reliant on a physical brain, an organic brain to work? No, I don't think so. I think maybe possibly they could be possessed, but it would be a very, very weird experience for an intellect devourer to do that. Yeah, hobgoblins aren't necessarily evil, they're just ruthless survivalists. Yeah. Adam, what other YouTubes would you want to have game sessions with? Most of the guys who I got linked on my channel, like Jordan, Mr. Rex, DM Scotty, Dungeon Master Johnny, Gareth from the DMG, Oliver, obviously over in Australia, who wrote Infected, the Wes, Ian, who else? Hanker and Ferndale. I'd love to sit down and game with Hankerin for sure, just like off camera. Yeah, lots of people. I'm pretty much down to game with anybody who loves D&D or any role-playing game. Oh, and also Becky and Jason from Pair of Geeks. Who else? Wow. DBJ. The Gentleman Gamer. Red Dice Diaries. Hell, I'd even sit down and game with guys off Nerdicate. Oh yeah, Crafting Muse. Goblin Hungry Boys. No, there's goblins in heaven. There's probably a goblin archon there, scuttling around, like looking a bit ragged. Yeah, exactly, Dragon Turtle. Just like Dristu Erden, he's the exception to his race, but there are good creatures. Doing well, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so alignment for player characters these days is not um, as strongly enforced in fifth edition through gameplay or the rules themselves. So you don't, like in the past, you couldn't even be a certain character class without being the alignment that fit that character class. Like you couldn't be a paladin unless you were lawful. You couldn't be a cleric unless you were neutral. I mean, a druid unless you were neutral. These days, you can be a chaotic evil druid. So it's very different from the old D&D method of dividing things up like that. Is giving a devil larvae an act of evil? No, it's not. No. However, the act of owning another soul, like a larvae, is evil. Because you're restricting the freedom of that thing, even though it is an evil thing. So imprisoning something against its will is an act of evil. No matter how evil that thing is, it's still an act of suppression. Wrap your head around that one. I know it goes counter to our Western way of thought, but imprisoning something is a form of slavery. And imprisoning something, even if that thing is evil, is an act of evil. Even if your intentions are good. I like that idea, Matt. I'd buy that PDF. When will Pearson and Roper start investigating the disappearance of older edition creatures? The case of the Flumph. Any thoughts on the new devil contract mechanism that the Avernus book is bringing? Very nice and creative addition to the lower planes encounters. Is it out yet? Wait a second. Let me check D&D Beyond. Coming soon. So have people got the physical books already? When's that going to get released? September 17th. September 17th is quite a ways away. We're July now. So it's 2 months away? There must be some sneak peeks and previews of it that I haven't seen so far. So I'm not aware. Hey, thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, there is the possibility of raising a demon larvae back to a mortal creature. The good thing is that they will have no memory of their fate when they died. So once you become a larvae, you go into that sort of dreamy state of things. So what happens when you're dead pretty much stays when you're dead. So you don't remember what happened to you when you were dead because you didn't have memory engrams forming in a physical body. So, your physical body it's not imprinted with the soul's memories all of a sudden. Because there'd be a hell of a disconnect because time works quite differently in the outer planes and stuff as well. But yeah, it is possible to resurrect somebody as long as they haven't been dead for more than 200 years. So a true resurrection, you have to be within 200 years. You can bring somebody back from the afterlife, if they're willing. And larvae obviously will always be willing. Evil creatures always want to get the hell out of Dodge. Good creatures, not so much. Do you have any YouTube campaigns besides yours, past or present, that you would recommend? Well, it's up to... no, not really. I don't want to recommend any stuff to people because everybody's tastes are quite different. So I'd say just browse online campaigns, see what you like. Try Critical Role, try Acquisitions Incorporated, try any of the Twitch stream guys. Try other gaming systems. I don't know. Everybody's tastes are different. A good line to Lithic. How is it possible that she still needs eat brains to survive? They can actually eat intellect devourer brains. That's their version of junk food. So you can eat the brain of somebody who's about to die, for instance. So you can go sneaking around, use your psychic thingies to look for people who've got terminal cancer or something, and actually relieve their suffering. So you can euthanize people. It's a very quick way to go, Where would Ravnica be in the cosmology? Ravnica, according to the official D&D lore, Ravnica exists in an alternate multiverse. So it's not actually in the same transplanar planes of existence as the other gods and stuff. It exists outside. Yeah, September. Between taking one day of a man's life and taking his life, there exists only a matter of degree. Yeah, pretty much. No, Aaron. Never release Tharizdun. Here's the thing. You don't release Tharizdun. Tharizdun releases himself because Tharizdun doesn't believe that he's imprisoned. They managed to trick Tharizdun into believing that the reality that he's in is the real one, when in actual fact it's not. Sorry, Robert. Let me double check. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. I scrolled past it. AJ, are there other power word spells that weren't in the handbook? And if not, what words would make good power word spells? Power word obey would be great. That would basically supplant the will of everyone around you to do. Essentially, it would be a mass command. I think would be really great. Yeah, I think that's one that I would definitely add in there. Power word obey. Which Ravnica guild is the best? I see that, Scorch. Well, I am quite keen on Azorius as a player of Magic the Gathering. I have this particular deck of cards which I call the Walls, which uses... essentially I just throw out a whole heap of cheap walls, like Wall of Mist is my favourite, and then I get High Alert, which changes defensive creatures, exchanges their power, matches their power and toughness, And so all of a sudden you have a bunch of 5/5 creatures attacking you that were previously walls, and then once your turn is over, they go back to being walls again until you get attacked, in which case they turn into creatures again. It's really nasty. You combine that with one of the multicolour dragons, which does the same thing essentially. So I like Azorius for builds. But if I'm leveling up through the ranks in competitive play, I generally play Gruul. Well, not Gruul. Yeah, Gruul. The ragey rubble guys. Best way to keep a hag from stealing a baby. Consecrate the, like, ordain the baby in whatever religion you're in. What are other things that keep hags at bay? Generally speaking, hags they're quite wily, and they don't go into communities that can turn around and hunt them down, because really they're not that strong individually. Hags play the manipulation game, so they play power off others. Yeah, kill the hag. Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way. Don't have babies. Dragon Turtle. So neutral people go to neutral planes. So the middle planes, the middle grounds. Power word life. Oh, that's a good one. Give it an angel godparent. Yeah. A good divorce lawyer. Is the Deep Spawn the darker version of the Pokemon trainer? No, it's not. It's an aberration that is essentially an invasion of the body snatchers type creature. I'm going to demonstrate just how devastating they are as an ongoing storyline in the. I like this. I've got a lot of positive feedback from people who really like me telling little stories as part of my videos, meshing and integrating the lore into a living sort of world. And so I've come up with that group of player characters, adventurers. So I've got Seska and Mal, and I've made character sheets. I'm making character sheets for all of them, and I'll share those with you. They're all level 10. And yeah, so I'll go back in time to talk about their adventures against certain creatures. But I thought it's quite interesting that their introduction to you is their death. This is the TPK essentially. So you know what their fate will eventually be. Tell stories, yeah. Oh, which Ravnica guild is the best for D&D characters? Probably one of the, it's quite restricted, but Boros has got a lot of really good resources. Like if you need to call in the cavalry, Boros is good for that. Gruul is great if you're adventuring in the wilderness, because they know how to survive in the mean wilderness of the ruins of Ravnica. You probably wouldn't want to be a part of the Simic Combine or Orzhov. Is it Orzhov? Or is it Demir? Demir is probably quite interesting if you can avoid getting turned into a vampire, or becoming obsessed with becoming a vampire, because they'll sell you on the benefits of being a vampire. The intrigue and stuff, like the spying and the gathering information and stealing items and sensitive stuff, is very, very conducive to adventuring groups. Yeah, you can spin all of them in an adventuring sort of way. Chris Farley's power word was party. Rodney Dangerfield, yeah. If I made it, oh, that's a good question. If I made a video for me, not for views or subs, what would it be? Everything that I do. If you're not doing it from a point of passion, If you don't really enjoy what you're doing, it stinks. Your video stinks. So do what you love, and I love what I do. The content that I put out is what I want to put out, and nobody can make me put out content that I don't want to put out. Like for instance, I don't really have much interest in Ravenloft, and so a lot of people have been requesting that I do Ravenloft, and I've been trying to get into it. And all I can say is that go and check out Jada's Pocket DM channel, because he's done Ravenloft for you. He's doing Ravenloft. It's like a 2 hour long video of pure Ravenloft. So that is what you do. You go to someone else. I support other people that do stuff that I don't want to do myself. Oh, that's a good question. Besides Warhammer and Star Trek, what other crossovers do you think work good, and how does the power scale of Warhammer 40k not break things? You can have Space Marines and stuff like that cross over into the world of Faerun. They're obviously super powerful because they've got power armor, which is essentially artifact level weapons. But you can dumb it down quite a bit. Like Star Trek away teams are basically just as powerful as like a 6th or 7th level sorcerer. So they've got teleportation ability, they've got sensory abilities with their technology, but their technology is limited because it can be lost or stolen or deactivated or broken. They've got phasers, which are essentially radiant weapons, like a magic wand, that can stun or have a utility setting, so they can burn or weld, they can heat up rocks, that sort of thing. And really, they don't have any armor, so they're just like armor class 10, unless they're wearing space or environment suits. But generally speaking, Star Trek guys aren't very tough. Really, they're not. They don't focus on armor. Any armor they do have would be magical, so it would be force fields, and they use force fields a lot. But that's easy to handle with spells. So everything that Star Trek characters can do, you can handle with magical items and spells. Yeah. And exactly the same sort of thing with Warhammer stuff. It's artifact equipment and spells is how they handle everything technological. Other than that, they're just super powerful. So they're basically built like ogres, Space Marines. Power word party. I like the idea of power word party. Power word natural 20. Oh, power word luck. That's interesting. Power word explode. Yeah, I've yet to get into Karatur because I never really roleplayed in Karatur, so it's a steep learning curve for me. But I'll drag you along with me for sure. Bear in mind though that there's because I'm not adventuring in Karatur, it's just casual interest for me. So like a completionist level of interest. So I'll probably do a lot more stuff on Faerun before I start really delving into Karatur. I like delving into the borders of Karatur and Sakara just as a general overview, because I was concentrating on the region of that the dwarves originated in. So what relationship did the dwarves have with the Yak folk? And I was asking myself the question of was there actually much interaction? Whenabouts did the Yak folk originate? You know, where do they come from? Did they actually interact with the dwarves 13,000 years ago when the dwarves started their Great Migration? You know, and that's relatively recent by Forgotten Realms history. 13,000 years is relatively recent. So the elven civilization was just in its decline. It's the start of its decline, and the elven crown wars were happening while the dwarves were migrating across the world. So, mind-boggling scale of time. A Space Marine is just a paladin of conquest with magic gear. Changed my mind. Yeah, so Dark Templars for sure. Black Templars are absolutely paladins. Oh, well, that's exactly what happened, Nicholas. Essentially, the hags approached the the Yugoloths, not the other way around. An Ultraloth would have to bargain with something that the hags really, really wanted. So an Ultraloth is always scheming and looking for an advantage and looking for goods and property that other powers want. Yugoloths and hags, in that respect, have very simple needs themselves, but what they crave is power and influence. And with beings that can live for an eternity, obviously monetary wealth is not something that is much of a concern to them, because they can acquire money at a trickle feed, and over a sufficient length of time they're going to have a lot of money, like dizzying amounts of money. So that's not such a motivating factor, unless they're in a realm where money is hard to come by. What they do crave is power and influence. So if the Yugoloth could bargain with the Coven of Hags with something they all really wanted, because it would give them influence with others who wanted that thing too, that would be the way that they would sort of shoehorn their way into becoming an Ultraloth. What sort of music do I use in my games? Generally I don't, because I'm playing over Discord. Power word troll. Nice. Can we get a live stream on Friday night instead of Saturday? I stay up late every Saturday even though I have to work. I'll take that into consideration. I kind of structure my week around this being the start of my week of production of videos. This week, as I mentioned at the start of, even though I put out 2 videos this week, I've actually taken like a couple of days off just for like mental health. Don't worry about me. I'm on top of it, but I know when I'm going through a sort of a low phase, and I don't really push it, because that I just run into a wall. I sort of nibble away at a task while I'm in a sort of a down slump, and then when it always swings back up again. It's just a matter of knowing what your brain is doing. How does ordaining a baby in your religion prevent a hag kidnapping them? It's consequences of kidnapping them. So the hag doesn't want to enrage the people who are like the clerics and paladins and stuff of that religion. Not only that, but religions, as we know in the Dungeons and Dragons world, like there is actually a pantheon, and there are actually angels and stuff like that who work for that religion. So if the baby is ordained in that religion, then it's basically under the protection of celestial powers. So yeah, the hag is not going to piss that celestial power off by kidnapping the baby. Yeah, so the avatars do have free will and individuality, but they're also part of the god's awareness. It's a weird dichotomy. They had the Karatu second edition book at local half-price bookstore for $250. Wow. Far out. That's excessive. Your power word on Mondays is nap. I love it. We should start a thread on Discord about different power words. I was referring to use of multiple covens though. I thought Anthrax's only had a single though powerful coven transformer. Yeah, details are a bit sketchy on that one, but I think that is the case. Night hags are powerful, and as we know, collective spellcasting, particularly one that uses life force, is very powerful, because that's how we get elven high magic. And also, don't forget, on the outer planes, there are no level 9 spell caps. So they can cast Volcano and Wish and, you know, cast this as Avatar if they wanted to. Mighty glue stick is a magic weapon and a magic item in your world. That's fantastic. Dragon Turtle, how do you feel about pirating books no longer in print or for sale in stores? I can't find where I can get half of this older stuff besides something on eBay that may or may not be broken. So my personal feelings about it is, as a sage who provides information for people on the internet that definitely cannot get hold of it themselves, it's a part of what I do, really. So the acquisition of knowledge that I can pass on to other people necessitates me using any means to get hold of it. The difference is in passing on that to other people for money or whatever. So generally speaking, I'm against it when it's impacting a creator and their monetary gain. So I wouldn't acquire something off D&D Beyond, for instance, and then give it to people for free unless it was just like a friend and I'm giving it to them as a gift, something that I've purchased, which I've done in the past. But yeah, not wholesale pirating for just disseminating information so that everybody can get it for free, per se. Yeah, it's tricky, really. It's a grey zone in many ways. There's a lot of people who are very, very like anti-piracy to a ridiculous degree in the D&D community as well. Case in point is the 5th edition group on Facebook, the main one, not the uncensored one. They're very, very much against anybody like sharing PDFs and stuff like that, even like Wikipedia pages and stuff on occasion, because it's got copy-pasted material from D&D publications. So Wikipedia pages apparently can be piracy according to them or something. But they're very draconian about it to a stupid degree. Like they came down on me. They actually bullied me quite a bit for posting my videos on the 5th edition Facebook group because they considered it advertising because I made money off YouTube videos. I was like, these YouTube videos are completely 5th edition D&D. Are you crazy? Are you mad? It's like, if you're getting in the way of me posting my content on the 5th edition group, then what the hell are you doing? What are you here for? Aside from a tin pot dictator power trip. But we worked it out. Essentially, I just talked to the person in charge and not to the moderators and admins. Oh, thanks. Baby Cleric is my next PC. Oh, yep. How would you class gunpowder elementals? I wouldn't, because elementals aren't generally a compound. According to Ed Greenwood, in Dungeons and Dragons, Gond is actually the god that stops gunpowder from being explosive. So you can mix gunpowder on the world of Torah. You can mix gunpowder together and light it, and it will go pff. It won't go poof. It's not high explosive because Gond, his divine power, actually stops it exploding on the world of Torah. So gunpowder doesn't work. Smoke powder is a version of gunpowder over there which has got a magical component in it that forms the explosive effect, but it's very expensive to add that magical component to it. So smoke powder in Faerun is made by Gondite clerics who basically make money for their religion because Gond gives them the knowledge of how to make an explosive powder. So it's so smoke powder of Faerun is not gunpowder. So if you brought it over to Earth, it would probably still function as gunpowder, but it would be the actual explosive component of it would be useless almost. So yeah, yeah. Gondish gun control. He would not be welcome in America. Oh, was that politics? Yeah, Gond is the patron deity of gunpowder. Essentially, he is like Nobel, right? So Nobel created dynamite, nitroglycerin, and for mining and industry, and then he was horrified that people were using it as a weapon, and he used the profits of his invention to create the Peace Prize, buying his way back into the good graces of whatever power. Oh well, in that case, rabbit and glasses, absolutely, go for it. Yeah, if it's a homebrew setting, for sure. You can make gunpowder elementals, absolutely. Is your Discord public? Yeah. Anybody who's got the link to it can join. If someone uses elven high magic and sacrifices themselves, does anything happen to their souls? Yeah, here's the thing. Quite often, their soul is actually tied to the mythal. That's what's providing the ongoing power of it, because essentially their soul is permanently concentrating on the spell and maintaining it. Good case in point is Cadderley. Cadderley Bonaduce. Eventually, he became essentially a living prison for a powerful infernal. Who is Gond? Gond is a god in D&D. Gond is a filthy monopolist. Yeah, well, he is the craftsman god. He's the god of invention. Yeah, so basically, for Faerun guns work, you need a spell component, a ritual spell component. Yes. No explosives work in D&D. Blasting jelly, TNT, dynamite. No nitrogen-based explosives work in Faerun. They don't. They don't explode. No, I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen Ed's tweets. I generally avoid tweets because otherwise I'd fall into the trap of Dungeon Master Johnny of paying too much attention to the individual politics of the people who make D&D, which would infuriate me, I'm sure. Because yeah. Oh, that's a good question, Dragon Turtle. Individual mythals have got different rules of their own, so like the rules of the mythal are kind of written into them. Generally speaking, hydrogen, yeah, okay, obviously hydrogen is explosive because of the oxygen reaction. Yes, hydrogen still explodes. Basic chemistry. Specific chemistry that uses gunpowder and weapons and explosives and stuff. That's what Gondite influences, not all explosions. The Gith would be very confused if they came to Toril. They'd be like, my sidearm doesn't work. Then they'd pull out a wand. Because, you know. And gunpowder golems. Oh. Oh, yeah. I actually read the Cleric Quintet. That was the first R.A. Salvador novels that I read, and I really like them. And I love how there's a crossover where Drist meets Cadley and Danica and the Boulder Shoulder brothers. There's a bomb item in D&D Beyond. Yeah, there's individual cases. Like it's just specifically Gond and Faerun. Twitter is the true plane of salt. True. Power word corporate. Power word beer. So I'd imagine having your soul inside a mythal would be like Groundhog's Day. You'd be constantly repeating the same thing over and over again, vaguely aware of the passage of time. Otherwise, you would go crazy. So you'd have to have some sort of a reset, I think. Kaiser, you'd have to pretty much homebrew that. I like the idea of it though, trapping and exploiting a demi-lich for its soul drain abilities, but obviously that would be evil by proxy. So Kalimvor would probably have words with you about doing that if you're a good aligned person. What do you think about the 10-day week in Toril? The 10-day? Yeah, I definitely use it. Yep, I use the calendar and the days of the week in Toril for sure. It doesn't actually come up that often because in day-to-day life, when you don't have, like when I was younger, if I can cast back to a time, my dad and I went to an island resort in New Zealand, scuba diving, just like a father and son activity, and they didn't have. It was kind of like on island time, so we were away from the mainland and we weren't at work and stuff, and so the general populace had a vague idea of what day it was of the week. You know, if they wanted to find out what the date was, they'd look at a calendar or work it out, or look at their phone or the internet. But generally speaking, people didn't wear watches and they didn't care what day it was. It was just what season is it, sort of thing. So the people in day-to-day life in Faerun outside of the cities would have much less interest in what day of the week it was, sort of thing. It's a more relaxed attitude towards timekeeping. So in day-to-day life, an adventurer doesn't necessarily worry about what day of the 10-day it is. So once you get into towns and stuff, everybody starts getting more focused on what day of the week and what time of the day it is, because business and all that sort of stuff revolves around it. Any ideas for what an ancient pyroclastic could do in a fight? Ooh, that's a good question. I've really got to get around to redoing those dragon videos. Power word tweet creates incredible amounts of drama among everything around you. Yeah, power word drow. So technically a mad alchemist could build a hydrogen bomb. Look, a mad arcanist could create a portal to the plane of elemental fire, which would be, yeah. If you create a tiny portal to the heart of the plane of elemental fire, it is so hot that you would immolate everything within a town. So there are powers, celestial and primordial powers, which prevent that from happening. And that's part of the thing that wizards learn. Hey, Kairos. Green Scythe, Matt. It's time for me to go, everybody. I've got work to do. Yeah, I really like that about Moradin as well. It's like everybody who goes, huh, and raises a sword against Moradin, and the sword just goes, because essentially a little bit of Moradin is in every single crafted item. That is some level of power. Dragon Turtle, bit of both. Sometimes the caster sacrifices. It's usually the person who's leading the ritual, and that's the person who's the most knowledgeable of the ritual and has the most vested interest. It's a noble sacrifice. Would nukes still work? I suppose so, if you wanted them to. Via con queso. Go with cheese. I know, an hour just zips by. How do the power word spells actually work? Just like that. So essentially you get yourself into the right frame of mind. You've got to, it's a casting of a spell, right? So you latch onto the right sort of mystical frame of mind, and it's formulas and chants and stuff which are going on in your head all the time. Unless you're drawing the power down from your deity, in which case it's asking for the right to use that power, and protection for your mind when you do it, because using a supernal word just out of the blue, I think the general law is that your face will explode. So using a supernal word, speaking a supernal word of creation or destruction is not recommended for a mortal life form, because it can actually tear you apart. So yeah, like I said before, it's like you're tapping into something which is a continuing effect throughout the multiverse. It's stretched over time and space. So it's weird physics. Stanchgate, did I miss your super chat? Oh, there it is. What's my opinion on magic as a science? I'm in favour of it, really. I mean, magic is just something that science doesn't yet understand, and science is something that appears magic to people who don't understand what science is. So, yeah. 2 and 2 makes 2. More questions are not going to make me stay longer. Do other greater deities of crafting in the multiverse also have that power and could potentially stop Moradin's power? No, Moradin is a greater god, so he's in charge of the portfolio. Everything else feeds back into Moradin. So, no. Even Gond can't stop that. In a local area, Gond may appear and go and put us all into it, but if Moradin actually showed up and went, nah, Gond would be bitch slapped. Yeah, he's the OG crafting deity. Alright, everybody. Sayonara. Have an excellent day. Where's my little control thingy? I've lost it. My screen is so big I have to look down and find it. Can a genie become a primordial? Yeah, I think so. That's a good question. I don't know. Can Moradin make gunpowder work? Yes, I suppose so. Yeah, that's why you see so many dwarves with guns. Don't leave us! I mean, look at World of Warcraft. Guns work on Athos. Guns work on Greyhawk, I suppose. No Dragon Turtle. Well, you can sometimes, like 30 is quite a lot. But, you know, I persevere and I try. I try and get to them. See you, everybody.